Hi, third grade. It's Mrs. Works. And I don't know if you can see, but Chloe's in the background. She's listening to our story today, too. I'm going to read you a story. This is called Maps and Globes by Harriet Barton. And this goes perfectly along with what we were talking about in social studies. So let's get started. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors invented the map. Ancient maps were crude but very useful tools. They helped people find food, clean water, and the way back home, even when home was a deep, dark cave. As civilizations grew, better maps were needed. The oldest existing maps are from the ancient desert kingdom of Babylonia. These maps were etched on tablets of damp clay that soon baked rock hard in the midday sun. Early Chinese map makers painted beautiful maps of their empire on pure silk cloth. People in every part of the world cleverly used local materials to make the maps they wanted and needed. We have our Babylonians and our silk maps. Charts are maps used to sail the wide oceans. The Polynesian islanders sailed the vast Pacific Ocean using stick chart maps. These charts were woven with reeds and palm leaves that showed the ocean currents and wave directions. Seashells were attached to each chart to indicate the larger islands. That makes me think of Moana. Does that make you think of Moana? But ancient world maps were incredibly incomplete. Until a few centuries ago, the Earth was neither fully explored nor accurately mapped. As a result, these maps presented a world that looked like this, an incomplete and very incorrect world. So look at what they thought the world looked like. At this time, most people still believed the Earth was as flat as a pancake. If it really was flat, then ships and sailors might tumble over the edge if they sailed too far from dry land. We know now that's not true, that Earth is a sphere. The age of exploration begins. Columbus sails. About 500 years ago, some big changes were in the wind. Brave sailors and map makers were beginning to sail farther and farther from the safe shores of Europe. The true shape, the true look of the Earth was about to be discovered. Realistic, dependable maps would soon follow. When Christopher Columbus sailed west in 1492, he was actually looking for the Spice Islands of India. He wanted to discover a safe, short ocean route from Spain to India and back again. What he really found proved to be two unmapped continents, North and South America. And on the picture are Columbus's three ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Magellan sails and proves that the Earth is round. In 1519, Ferdinand Magellan sailed from Spain with a fleet of 5 ships. Magellan wanted to be the first explorer to sail all the way around the world. If the voyage was successful, it would prove to one and all that the Earth was round. The fleet sailed down through the icy waters at the tip of South America, across the Pacific and Indian Oceans, around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, and back to Spain. After 3 long years at sea, one battered surviving ship had completely encircled the Earth. An explosion of discovery and exploration was soon underway now that all were convinced the Earth was round, like an orange, like a cannonball, like a globe. And there you can see Magellan's route that he took when he was exploring the Earth. Globes are tiny models of our Earth. Globes, unlike flat maps, are shaped exactly like the Earth, like a ball or a sphere. They are very tiny models. The Earth is really 30 to 40 million times bigger than the globe in our classroom. Globes, because they are round, put all the world's geography in its proper place. They give the truest possible vision and view of the whole Earth. So here we can see the 2 continents of North and South America. And on this side, we can see the Pacific Ocean, which is the largest ocean in the world. Maps put our round Earth on flat paper. Maps are precisely drawn pictures of the Earth, pictures of the entire Earth or any part of it. There are maps of the world, maps of the country where you live, and maps of your hometown. Maps put all the wet oceans and all the lumpy, bumpy land on sheets of nice, flat, dry paper. We have another picture, and the teacher is pointing to Greenland up here, part of North America. Globes are the most realistic world maps. Since globes duplicate the true round shape of the Earth, all distances, directions, sizes, and shapes are true to scale on globes. But maps must artificially flatten the real round world, so map makers cut, stretch, and distort some parts of the Earth to get it all flat on paper. The worst map distortion is at the top and the bottom of the world, in the Arctic and Antarctic. Greenland, for instance, looks bigger than all of South America on a flat map, but it isn't. A globe instantly shows that South America is really much bigger. In fact, it's 8 times bigger. So look at the difference between what Greenland and South America look like. So here we have South America and Greenland, and that shows their true size versus the flat map where they look to be almost the same size. So that is definitely a disadvantage of a flat map. Maps have a language you can learn. Maps and globes can take you places and show you things when you know how to read them. Map language is partly names and numbers. It's also bright colors, great circles, imaginary lines, and tiny symbolic cartoons. Map language begins with the 4 basic directions, and directions means which way. North is the direction toward the North Pole from any other place on Earth. South is the opposite, always towards the South Pole. East is the direction where the sun appears every morning, and west towards the sunset. And we've talked about this in class. And you can see the compass rose on this picture up here. The equator divides the Earth in half. The equator is a great imaginary line around the middle of the Earth. It divides the Earth into 2 equal parts, the northern and the southern hemisphere. A hemisphere is exactly 1/2 of a sphere. The northern hemisphere is the half that's north or above the equator. That's where we live. Most of the world's dry land and most of its people are in the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere is everywhere south or below the equator. Of the 7 continents on Earth, only 2, Australia and Antarctica, are completely within the southern hemisphere. And I love this fun fact. The equator is 15,000 miles long. That's a great circle around the circumference of the Earth. How to put big countries on small pieces of paper. Distance is how far apart places are. Maps and globes miniaturize the actual distances. They are drawn to scale. Scale is the system that reduces the real land, the real oceans, to sizes that fit on paper. Scale lets you hold millions of square miles in your own 2 hands. To find distances on this map, you measure the inches with a ruler and multiply by 500. The map distance between San Diego and Boston, so from the East Coast in Boston to San Diego on the West Coast, is about 5 inches. So the real distance, 5 times 500, would be about 2,500 miles. So that's map scale. You can measure the Earth with a piece of string. Globes differ in size, so they differ in scale. The exact scale of any globe is shown in its key or legend. To find mileage on a globe, you measure the inches with the string and then you multiply by the scale. For instance, the shortest jet route from Chicago to Calcutta, India, would be due north over the North Pole. This great circle route is a long curving distance of about 8,000 miles. You can see the girl in the picture with the string trying to determine the distance. Where on Earth am I? Exactly. Maps use a network of intersecting imaginary lines to identify the exact location of every place on Earth. This network builds from 3 locations that we already know: the North Pole, all the way up at the north, the South Pole, all the way at the bottom, and the equator, right in the middle. Latitudes or parallels tell how far north or south. Lines of latitude are drawn parallel to the equator, and they measure the degrees north or south of the equator. The equator itself is 0 latitude. It's exactly in the middle. Longitudes, or meridians, tell how far east or west. Meridians are imaginary lines running vertically from the North Pole to the South Pole. East and west are measured in degrees from Greenwich, or the prime meridian. Here's a picture. So latitude, remember, is going across, and longitude is going from pole to pole, vertically, up and down. How high are the mountains? Elevation means how high. Elevation tells you the altitude of any place on land: mountains, valleys, deserts, glaciers. Elevation is measured from sea level. Sea level is considered 0 elevation. Map makers combine colors and contour lines to highlight the location, shape, and elevation of especially high places. The highest place on Earth is Mount Everest in the Himalayas. Its peak is 29,028 feet above sea level. Can you see the colors? Remember when I showed you this in the atlas in the classroom? And I said that the light green was lower latitude and that the dark brown was higher? This particular map is using that exact same color code. How deep are the oceans? Depth means how deep or how far it is to the bottom. Depths are measured from sea level, 0 depth, straight down to the bottom of the ocean, the sea, the lake. Map makers use contour lines and several shades of blue to show the depths and features on an ocean floor. Did you know there are more mountains and volcanoes under the ocean than on the land? Deep canyons split the ocean floor. The deepest, called the Mariana Trench, is 36,198 feet below sea level. That's about 7 times deeper than the Grand Canyon in Arizona. And again, this map maker is using colors of blue to show depth or how deep the ocean is. Physical maps, the nature of places. There are many different types of maps, and each provides a different type of information. Physical maps present the works of nature. They show vegetation, terrain, and other natural features of places, such as jungles, deserts, and open grassland. Physical maps show the elevation of the terrain. They also note the depressions, which are the areas that lie below sea level. This is a physical map of the continent of South America. Political maps, people and countries. There are over 150 independent countries or nations on Earth. Political maps show the capital cities and the boundaries between the countries. Boundaries or international borders reflect the political divisions that people have agreed to. Some borders are straight lines plotted by surveyors, and other borders follow natural features. Some run along the highest peaks in a mountain range or along rivers. Still others are plotted precisely down the middle of rivers, so that each country gets one riverbank and precisely one half of the river. So this shows the political map of South America, and you can see that the different countries are represented in different colors, and you'll also notice that their capital cities are shown. Does anybody remember what the capital city of our country is? It's where the president lives. It's where the Congress works and makes laws. It's also where the Supreme Court decides very important decisions. Did you get it? It's Washington, D.C. Local maps, getting closer to home. Local maps show you smaller areas. Each gives a detailed close-up look at a community and its environment. Local maps show the familiar natural features, the forests, the rivers, the sandy beaches. They also show the landmarks, the special features that are big, easy to see, and easy to remember. Local maps also show the cultural or man-made features in the community. Cultural features are the visible evidence of human work and activity upon the earth, and they include things like highways, school buildings, wheat fields, airports. Here's an example. You see the map key over here? It shows all of the different items that are on the map and what they mean, all of the symbols. There are so many ways to see Arizona. Arizona is a state almost completely on the west coast of the United States. It's right next to California. Many maps provide general information about an area's geography, and they give an overview of landscape, landmarks, and features. Other maps present specialized information about a place. They focus on a single topic at a time. A few of these topics are population, climate, history, and wildlife. So all of these are showing you a map of Arizona. However, they're different. So this one right here is showing the counties in Arizona. This one right here is showing you the national parks and monuments that are contained within the state. Right here, this one is the major metal deposits in the state. They have a lot of metal in Arizona, natural resource, and a stagecoach line map from the 1800s. The world is waiting for you. If you take fancy to any place on earth, you can go there today and still be home in time for dinner. Just walk into a library, open an atlas, and fly there in your imagination. An atlas, remember, is a book full of maps. It's your personal passport to our wide world. There's a collection of atlases in every library in the land, and their Dewey Decimal number is 912. Oh, forgot to show you that picture. And you can always look at the atlas that I have in the classroom. And don't forget, Google Maps is a great resource. So, open a map, spin a globe, the wide world awaits you. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed the book, Maps and Globes. I hope a lot of it was things that were familiar that we've talked about in class, and there was a few new topics in there too. All right, third grade, have a wonderful day. See you later.